Welcome, everybody. We're the Three Stooges: Joe Davidson, Sacramento B, Chris Jackson, West Coast Preps, the bearded wonder who wasn't here last week because he was grooming his beard somewhere in the Midwest, Jordan Georgian of Gold Country Media. We talk high school sports in the this state, heavy on Northern California and the Sac Joaquin section of Sacramento, but we talk on issues and topics and what's going on. And today's menu, we've got all kinds of stuff. We keep seeing this trend over the years, and we're going to keep seeing this trend overuse of baseball arms, whether it's little league, high school, college. Tommy John is a name that you don't want affiliated to your surgically repaired elbow. We will dig in on some of that. We have basketball transfers and speculation of kids of big names coming here to there. Our theme is why not just stay put if the grass is already green? We'll dig into that. Steve White, 700 game winning girls basketball coach, Oak Ridge High School, El Dorado Hills. Is he out? Is he in? Is he partly in, partly out? We will address that. He's a tremendous coach, but is he an assistant? Is he the head coach still? Is he athletic director, teacher? There's all kinds of speculation. We have the answers on that. CIF track and field state championships, the 105th running down in Fresno. It'll be 105. Chris Jackson will be down there trying to avoid heat stroke. We'll talk about some of the storylines, including the big national news on the transgender student athlete who is in some of the girls' jump events. President Donald Trump has vented about that, but there are California state laws that protect that. We'll dig in a little bit. And section softball, section baseball, what's going on there, and also is the NorCal, SoCal regionals for those sports going to survive long term? Eric Sonheimer, our media friend from the LA Times, listed off about 10 teams from the Southern California who have bowed out for girls softball because the seasons are so long, or graduation, senior trips, ASA, and all that. So that's a topic there, but wow. So there's a lot of things right there. Why don't we just get right into, we're hearing about some of these transfers in basketball. Is Sincere Hudson, the Sacramento Bee All Metro guard, recognized by West Coast Preps as well? Is he on the move? Is he going to Modesto Christian? One way or another, Chris Jackson, there's dialogue. My point is, why would you leave? Intercom of Sacramento is a powerhouse program. You can get recruited out of there. You can get signed out of there. Modesto Christian's a fantastic program. We know that, but there have been transfers who have gone there from Folsom and Destiny Christian, or Capital Christian. Why leave? I don't get it. What are you hearing, Chris Jackson? Does it irk you? It irks me. I understand, and I appreciate a kid who wants to look around, but man, sometimes the going's good right where you are.
Yeah, and he's got what, four Division One offers, I believe, right now. When you look at it, he's got Pacific, Sacramento State, San Francisco, Wichita State, right? Some of those programs. Sacramento State's on the rise. San Francisco's had some great teams in the past. Wichita State really has as well. Obviously, a Division One player already on the radars. Does Modesto Christian bolster that? Does transferring schools bolster that? In a lot of cases, you see when a kid moves, it really doesn't. And that's not because the program they're joining isn't good. Modesto Christian's an elite program, but the player is that good, right? Like the kid has earned the right to get these offers. Sincere Hudson's been on the map. He's been on the radar for 2 years. I want to say he was a postseason award recognition type of kid as a freshman as well. Now, don't know all the reasons why a transfer would happen, why you leave Intercom. I'm not their family. I'm not their kid. I would not know if there's other reasons outside of basketball. Who knows what the heck it is there? You can hear rumblings, this and that, but we'll probably never get the full scope on that. But at Intercom, you're already getting enough. You're getting a lot of good looks. You're getting recruited, this and that. And Intercom wins a lot of ball games, right? For a lot of last year, they were number one ranked by us, number one ranked by you, Joe, until they fell in those section playoffs. But you're moving from one great program to another. In a lot of cases, I don't think it's the kid's decision. I'm not just saying this about Sincere Hudson. I'm really not. In a lot of situations, not him, but you look across America, it's a parental choice, or you're getting told by an AAU coach, a trainer, this and that. Move here, move there. You have better optics, better chance, better this and that for recognition to go to the next level. When in reality, basketball, there's only so much recruiting college coaches can do in season, right? Because they're playing the same nights. Football, you can still recruit in season because Friday night games played on Saturdays, assistants disperse on Friday nights. There's all that huddle film, this and that, right? And that's you can't play tackle football year round, or else Lord knows the ramifications of that. The basketball you can play year round. There's AAU, spring, summer, fall, college coaches are at all these big tournaments, baseball, softball, so much recruiting in the travel ball circuit. Where really, 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 if you're good enough in those things, they'll find you. I really don't think it matters what school you go to, what school you attend, where you finish up at. If you're good enough in these sports, and especially where they're recruiting in the off season at AAU travel ball stuff, more likely than not, you're gonna get found. I know some kids slip through the cracks, unfortunately, but for the most part, kids like this will get found.
Yeah, and Jordan, jump in. We hear this in football, and guys coming from here to there, and sometimes guys with scholarship offers will transfer from school A to school B. And I think you're kind of old school like us, Jordan, where just stay put. It's kind of a bad look. It's not just the student athlete, though they get labeled, but a lot of times the parents are here, and we understand the parent wants the best situation, but it's you're gonna have to sit out 30 days, this and that. We saw it in baseball where kids went to other states and all that. But your thoughts on that, Jordan?
I mean, I think it stems down to, if you're good enough, you're going to get noticed. I mean, I look at a guy like Jalen Wells. Yeah, he was at Folsom, their big school, but he started at Sonoma State, and he was at Sonoma State for 3 years before he ends up going to Washington State, and he is up for NBA Rookie of the Year. I mean, he was all rookie first team this year. I mean, so and Placer has had 5-star guys in football. Modesto Christians put guys in the NFL in football, and if you know how small that school is, you'll know how crazy that is. And I mean, we see it all the time. We talked, Chris and I were at Lincoln Potter's game last night. And we were talking about, some kids that transferred, and there was a kid, I can't remember his name, but he transferred from, a small school where he was going to be the star of that team, and he transferred into Wood Creek. And it was like, well, yeah, you're still a great player. You're still a starter on that team. Wood Creek's a great team, but now you're another face in the crowd on a team of 9 Division I commits, essentially. And this was probably 2 or 3 years ago when this kid transferred. But if he had stayed where he was, he's the guy there. And I'd argue you might even get more looks at the small school because you're going to stand out to any potential scout. And I mean, at the end of the day, I am a fan of, staying put. And I understand there's some factors out of the control that we may not know about. A lot of times it could be a family issue, or it could be, hey, dad got transferred for work and we have to move here because it's easier for commute, stuff like that. Not, if you transfer for that reason, by all means. But I think a lot of times we see in football and basketball and a lot of sports that sometimes these kids learn the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And sometimes, a transfer is not what you think it's going to be. And you end up, RB2 in a backfield of 4 Division I running backs, or you end up, the sixth man in a rotation because you were a star at your old school. And I mean, I'm not going to knock a parent for doing what they think is best for their kid, but I just really think some people don't understand that the grass isn't always going to be
And if you're
That's
honest
exactly right.
with the good
Go
coaching
ahead, Chris.
staff, we've mentioned Troy Bowens at Sutter, right? For
Right.
state there in football. He's a 4-star, top 100 kid in his class. He said schools have reached out. A prominent school in Southern California reached out. He laughed at it. It kind of pissed him off. Like, why would I want to go anywhere else? Sutter gives me everything. It's a great school, great community. Coaches have even talked about, like, you got to come sometime at lunch and just see every kid talk to each other. They probably haven't had a fight on that campus in 4 years. Why would you leave that kind of school? Why would you leave those types of teachers and coaches that get your name out too and that genuinely care, right? You have everything that you want. You don't have to leave. Now, if you don't have everything you want, I get it. Sometimes it happens. Like a job, it doesn't always work out. A school doesn't work out. But a lot of instances, the grass is not always greener. I think we've probably all learned that in life, one way or another, as adults.
And the other thing that transfers do, it just always kickstarts and sets fires on speculation and rumor, and so much of it is just so bad. And Folsom High School football has gotten a lot of incoming juniors and seniors, and it's a destination school. Coach Paul Doherty will say that people want to come here, and Josiah Sharma and Totten last year, and they were already college recruited kids before they transferred from Cosumnes Oaks and Oak Grove Unified and the Inderkum Tigers of Natomas Unified, respectively. And then you hear the speculation, Joe, why aren't you reporting on the fact that these transfers coming into Folsom, they don't even, part of their deal is they don't even have to attend class. No, that's not true. No, that's what we're hearing. All right, I'll walk over to the principal, Howard Cadenhead. He's always been level with me. Hey, I'm hearing from rival coaches that, some of your Folsom transfers aren't attending classes. They're just doing it online or whatever because they're here every day. And so there's speculation, rumor, spite against the truths and facts. And I've also heard coaches say, hey, there are 15 players at Folsom football. This is before a section championship. 10 or 15 players who are like 19 years old already. I'd walk over to the principal. No, not true. So that's garbage. And we're not going to report on garbage. And one way I debunk some of these guys is who have all this speculation and alleged insight say, okay, you're going to be my first source. I'm going to put you on the record. I don't want any part of that. And so that kind of debunks that. But Chris, I'm going to toss back over to you on this. Sometimes we're hearing through the scuttlebutt and the speculation and the rumor mill, and we listen, because that's part of our job, that there are players reaching out to schools here, there, Oak Grove Unified, wherever, and they'll say, well, I want to send my kid there but I'd like to not have to go to class every day. That ain't gonna jive. I mean, how can a coach wiggle that? Is that where we are now? Where it's like a junior college setting where you don't even have to be on campus and you can't break rules to get guys in. People listening to this podcast are probably laughing, so rules have been broken, but that would be blatant. And
I mean,
so
that's beyond breaking rules. I mean, there's
Yeah.
state laws and stuff. You have to be at school X amount of days out of the year. You get notes sent home. I had a friend in high school who missed X amount of days because of this and that. He got a letter sent home threatening, hey, you keep doing this, you're not moving up in school. We don't care whether you're that freaking good or not. And I was on the phone yesterday. There's a prominent basketball player who was looking to transfer to another school, was asking the coach, what kind of package can we get? Can we get free travel, I should say, transportation to and from school? And can we just go to school a few days a week? Well, that's not how it's going to work, especially at a public school when you've got state educational laws, public school laws. You can't just go to school 2 days a week and then just skip the rest of the days. How is that going to work? Now, you can adjust that schedule in college. You want to have all online classes, go ahead. And a lot of people do now. We've all done that before in this day and age, but that's not how it's going to work. And the coach said, I'm not risking my career for this. That's not worth it. I don't care how good you are. I'm not risking my career, my reputation for my family, for my school, my district to do something like that for you. And that's probably also not the kid even asking that really. They're getting fed information from other people who think this is the right thing to do. And in reality, it's not. In most situations, almost all of them, I can't blame the kid. They don't know any better. They're good. They think they're doing what's best, what's right. And when you're 16, 17 years old, you're just trying to figure it out. And you've got adults trying to take advantage of you, this and that, which is really sad. And to hear that this is the way it's going for some kids and this is what they're asking, that's not the high school experience, right? That's part of the high school experience. When you go to a Rockland high school game, how cool was that to see those students rally behind Mark Lavernov every night because they just hung out with that kid every freaking day. They do that for Reeve Sloan, for a Rider Lions, this and that. You know what? And if you think these kids ain't going to school, well, then check their Instagram stories. I can guarantee you they're posting on Instagram all the time, and they're at school. They're goofing around at lunch.
and they're doing it from the
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
exactly.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. All right, we're gonna shift gears here, kind of a somber note. We certainly applaud the incredible student athletes that we've covered over the years. Franklin High School in the Oak Grove Unified School District has a softball senior. She wanted to graduate today. She cannot graduate today because she's in the hospital fighting for her life. Her name is Michaela Orlado, and a star softball player, the heart of the team, according to Coach John Goodell, a Cal Poly San Luis Obispo commit. Um, who was hit in a car accident. Family is devastated. Family attributed it to a reckless driver. She is in the hospital, and it could take months for her to regain full abilities. The doctors are hopeful. And it's just it's a tough thing. And Mike Cody's the athletic director down there, and they spoke highly of it. And we had a B story written and posted by Sean Campbell. He's an intern working for us. He's going to do a great job, and he needed a story, and I sent him that way and sent him some contacts, and he got some great insight. There's a GoFundMe that's already raised $16,000. So Sacramento Bee All Metro second team last season, hitting 455 this season. Just tough news, really hard, and hopefully we can only hope. And so that story is on sacb.com. Chris Jackson may be working on something as well. Jump on the GoFundMe thing, but real life happens. And this is a school in the Oak Grove Unified that really cares about its student athletes. And Brian Kilby's the baseball coach, and he's also the activities director. They know what's going on. They have a great pulse on campus, and our hearts are with the family of Michaela Arlotto, who was fighting for her life, and I hope she pulls out. It's going to be a long fight, but she's certainly not short of support and family and a campus that really cares.
Yeah, she's set to go to Cal Poly to continue her academic and athletic careers. It's heartbreaking to hear a story like that. I think when I saw this the other day, your heart just sinks and drops, right? It's it's horrible. I hope that everything gets okay for that family. If you can donate, please do. Even a few bucks, I'm sure that family would appreciate it. My heart's broken that she can't go to graduation, a once in a lifetime type thing, celebrate that with her friends, and have that last summer that you always kind of hope for with your high school buddies before everyone kind of ventures off and you go to different schools across the country. Some families move after you graduate, this and that. But I just hope and pray that she does get better and can get back to everything that she wanted to do.
Absolutely.
Jordan, yeah, up in county, you have seen examples, written about examples about people getting hurt, car accidents or something that have motivated student athletes throughout Placer County over the years. So this happens across the country. I remember in 2018 there were two Nevada Union football players from Grass Valley on spring break. They were driving down to the Central Coast. They were being followed by their parents about 11 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden the parents are wondering, they were supposed to meet a certain spot on the road. Where are they? Drunk driver hit them head on from overnight drinking and killed them both. And I remember going to Nevada Union High School. It was spring of 2018, and they had they had the gym open and the football stadium open during spring break for a place for people to come and grieve. And these things rock schools, whether you're in a big enrollment school like Franklin of Elk Grove or a community town. And you've seen this and you've reported on this over the years, Chris, or I'm sorry, Jordan, and it's a lasting effect, and it's crushing in so many ways.
It really is. And it's one of the sides of this job that, no one wants to do. Your heart sinks when you see it because, I mean, a lot of times, especially when we cover these communities and cover these kids, like we get to know these kids a lot. And, your heart just breaks when you see stuff like this. And prayers up to her family. I hope everything she's able to make a full recovery, and we'll definitely we'll be sure to put the link out on our social medias too for the podcast. So if anyone is listening to this and wants to donate, you can find a way to do so. But I mean, it's one of those. It's an unfortunate thing that when we hear about these stories, and it sadly happens more than it should, because if it happens once, it's more than it should. And really just hope she's able to make a full recovery and be able to kind of have that normal college experience and getting to play at the next level. And hopefully this doesn't have lasting effects.
Yeah, no, that's it's really tough. And all right, the 105th CIF State Track and Field Championships are this weekend in Clovis, California, Buchanan High School, Fresno County. Chris Jackson is heading down there tomorrow to check it out. I got a story running any moment now on sacb.com. Brooke White of River City High School, the Raiders of West Sacramento, has the second fastest 100-meter hurdle time in the state. She has not lost a hurdles race all season. She's a double winner from the CIF Sac Joaquin Section Masters meet. Also won the long jump. The long jump is interesting because it's getting a lot of national attention. From President Trump right on down, there is a trans athlete in Riverside County at Jarapa High School, A.B. Hernandez, and and Hernandez won some jump events, and the CIF is backing it's the state law that says you cannot discriminate against any of this, and so they're going to create. They've been working on this well before Trump dropped any hammer or tried to drop any hammer. The CIF is basically saying that if this trans athlete wins an event or medals, uh, the female biologically born student athlete that might have had that spot will get that. So they're going to have extra medals for that. I think it's the best way to handle it. It's a very tough situation. It's controversial. I'm turned off by people who think that the trans athlete, student athlete is some rogue and I'll just kick her out. And it's just, this person is going through stuff that we can't relate to. The CIF will figure it out, always does. And Brooke White, the student athlete track star from River City, I asked her about it. And she said, and this girl's at 4.3 GPA. And before I even asked her about this topic, she said, I'm rooting for everyone. Why can't we all be on the same team, even if they're rivals? She says, I believe that everyone deserves an equal opportunity to compete, and Hernandez being there does not bother me at all. She does just as much training, goes through just as much anxiety as we all do during track. I don't believe that she deserves any of this backlash, and I'm sure it's making her feel worse. There could be, end quote, there could be protests down at the CIF meet. There's going to be people heckling, people just unload and bombard. Tough subject, tough situation. I think the CIF is handling it well. I think student athletes like Brooke White of River City, it's West Sacramento, is handling it really well. That's the way to go. And I think this handles, a lot of people say, well, just kick that trans athlete out. Don't even get them off the bus. That's not going to happen. They've already competed. There are state laws, and that's where we are. Chris Jackson, if you want to comment it, and Jordan, you after that, there we go. But that's going to be a storyline down there in Fresno, for better or worse. But I like the way the CIF has handled a tough situation.
Yeah, no matter what the CIF did, they were gonna arc people with their decision, no matter which side they chose, no matter what they did. And it doesn't matter what you believe politically, who you voted for, who you supported, right? It's just a matter of these are state laws. There's protections for this. And quite frankly, I don't care what anyone on this call thinks politically. It doesn't matter to me. Why the heck should that matter to me with the way you feel one way or another? Nor should it really matter to me how this goes, how this transpires Friday and Saturday, right? It's the CIF has released its statement. They're abiding by state laws, and that's all you can do, man. Good for that River City athlete to support back, and it's a once in a lifetime experience to compete at state anyway. And in this state, California, one of the best here, Texas, Florida, Georgia, those are the best in America. If you're in this meet, you have a chance to medal. You're among the best in America. You're likely doing something after high school to compete. And yes, now this storyline will affect some people from Northern California. When I just look alone, St. Mary's of Berkeley, one of their top athletes, Kyra Gant Hatcher, is on the 4x1 relay team. She's got the second best qualifying mark in the long jump, the best triple jump mark from section weekend as well. Now, in these jumping events, right, is the athlete from the Riverside area. So there's a chance that that can impact results where you finish in the program, this or that. But no matter how Gant Hatcher finishes, others, the CIF has released a statement that still, depending on how the transgender athlete finishes, maybe first, but you take second, you could still get that first place medal as well. And they're abiding by state laws, and nothing else you can do from there. I'm sure all these kids will celebrate when they're on that podium. They are not going to be thinking one bit about them. They'll probably be exhausted and tired. It's 105, 110 degrees. They'll want to go get food, have just 5 things of Gatorade and water, sleep, and they'll just be happy. Like, oh my God, did I really just get on the medal stand here? All that work pays off.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the student athletes down there handle this better than some of the bickering adults. And we've seen that a lot of times over the years. Jordan, where sometimes, whether it's at Golden One or state football championships or a playoff game, where the student athletes handle challenges and adversity and controversy much better than the coaches who heckle people, or that's not a first round pick, that's not a draft pick guy or whatever. And that's why we're so inspired by some of the efforts and the attitudes of student athletes who are being the mature ones when everybody should be.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, how many times have we all seen it where a fan or someone in the crowd says something out of line and you see a player on their own team kind of turn back and do something like no, like don't do that. We're better than that. And I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if, the athletes are handling it this way too. And I often get asked on this subject of why has no reporter really, touched this topic in a while. And, I've kind of said, kind of tongue in cheek of, well, we all like having jobs, and the problem is no matter what we say on it, someone's going to be calling for our head after that. And I think the CIF is handling this the best way that they can, because I really think the best solution that would keep everyone happy would be eventually you have to create a transgender division. And that's essentially what they're doing here. And I think that's probably the reality is right now there's not enough transgender athletes to create a full blown division, but I think this is kind of the framework for that. But yeah, I'm with you. I think, like Chris said, if you're in this meet, if you're at this point, I mean, I'm looking at the entry list. There are 32 athletes that are competing in the long jump here for state. I mean, that means you are one of the 32 best in the state, and nobody can take that away from you. No matter where you place here, you're going on to the next level. There's some people that might not even place here that are going to go on to the national meet in Philadelphia in June, or the one in Oregon later, I think also in June. So, I mean, these athletes here, yes, it would be great to medal and stuff like that. But the reality is there's 32 here, and there are three, maybe four that can medal depending how this goes. There's going to be 28 or 29 of them that are leaving without a medal, and they have no reason to hang their heads. I don't think these athletes care about it as much as some of the parents do. And I do think this is going to be something that we might look back on this CIF decision in a few years and kind of see like this is where the framework for whatever a like national decision or something like that from whether it be the NCAA, the government, who knows, this could be the decision that kind of helps lay the foundation for that.
Yeah, and we're not going to report our opinions on the topic, nor should people expect that. We're going to report the facts, what the state law is, what the CIF statement is, and what the CIF has announced, that you can still garner a medal depending on where you finish in these events with this athlete, right? So there's
Well,
a
and there
lot.
were people, Chris, who were hoping that the CIF, do the right thing, kick that athlete out of there. Not going to happen. You got state laws, and the whole thing is all these times you hear the bitter and the grumpy, and we heard this a lot during COVID season. The CIF and the governor, they hate high school kids and have no. No, I mean these are tough decisions, but this is the right way to handle it. I love Brooke White, the River City athlete, her great attitude, and there's a young lady who says, "Hey, anxiety's big in this sport, and a lot of mental exercises and breathing exercises and words of affirmation." And the last time she lost in the hurdles was in a national meet in Eugene, Track City, USA, at the University of Oregon Ducks campus, and she was right there in first place, right there next to it. The eighth hurdle, and she bites it, crashes, and she's devastated. She goes, "That race still haunts me." But immediately, people came over and consoled her, sports psychologists and all that. She wants to get into that line of work because, hey, this is stressful and all the time and preparation and things like that. So kudos to her. I'm going to read off some names of other medal contenders. I put this in our Sacramento Bee story. I break area athletes who expect to reach the medal stand at the CIF state championship weekend in Fresno. Lucas Alberts of Jesuit has the fourth fastest time in the 800 meters in 1 minute 51.27 seconds. Also runs anchor on the school's 4x800 relay team. Fastest time in Northern California, 7 minutes 42 0.07 seconds. Ryan Aubel of Del Campo has the third best pole vault effort in the state at 16 feet 7 inches. Nathan Bloom of Dixon has the third best shot put in the state at 61 feet 10.5 inches, just behind Elliot Traxler of Amador. Got some dudes who could throw some weight around. Will Green, football player, Vista Del Lago, Folsom, YD Multisport. He has the fastest 400-meter time in Northern California, 46.62 seconds. It's so competitive that there's a bunch of guys running 45 seconds down in Southern California, but he's going to have a shot. Cy Lugo of Elk Grove has the third fastest time in the state in the 200 meters at 20.95. He has to do that again because the crunch of talent in Southern California, they run that all the time. Quentin Mitchell of Antelope has the state's best high jump at 7 feet. He's going to have to match that. Nyjah Sizemore of Vanden, section masters girls champion in the 100 and the 200, great times in 11:65, 23:61. Have to duplicate that because the burners in Southern California do this all the time. Uh, Aliciana Winston of 12 Bridges of Placer County has the seventh fastest girls time in 100, 11.57, and a best of 24:53 in the 200. Great athlete. Jordan has seen her. I knew her dad. It is really hard to get to the state meet. It's really hard to medal because the Southern California winners are so great. Historically, the Sacramento area has never crowned or has never had a gold medal winner in the girls 100, the girls 200, or either relay or either hurdles race. And this is the 105th state championship overall, but the girls have only competed since 1974. The point being that the Southern California Cruisers win most of these. They also win most of the state football championships, most of the state basketball championships. cross country, all of that. So we got a shot. California is the largest populated state in America. And like you both have said, if you get to the state meet, you've done something. And this is what Brooke White of River City said. She goes, my goal is to set a PR, personal record. And if I medal, great, great attitude. Just get down there and do your best. Again, the teenagers handling things better than some of the adults.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. These types of sports, this golf, you're really just trying to improve your marks every time. And sometimes somebody just has a better day than you, right? That's just the name of the game. That's the way it goes. Somebody has that race of their life. Somebody has that jump of their life, whatever it is. But if you PR at the state meet, I mean, that's something alone. You should hang up a photo of that on your wall and keep that for the rest of your life because that is an unbelievable thing to do, especially when it's 105 freaking degrees outside in Clovis and you're on the track and there's the turf right there. That's all you can ask for. Getting a PR there is as good as anything in America, and that's bar none.
And I mean, if you want to
Yeah.
look too at how good some of this is, like the boys 800-meter race, for example, the automatic qualifying time that if you hit this, you automatically qualify for nationals if you want to go is 1:55 in the 800. And I only know this off the top of my head because Placer's Cooper Barr got second place in the 800 at Masters, broke a 41-year-old school record with his time of 1:51. If you look at the list of these times, I mean, almost every one of these top times in this 800-meter race are guys that have already met this 1:55 mark and are qualifying for nationals or are basically automatically qualifying for nationals. So that's how good these track and field athletes are here. And same if you want to look at some of the hurdle ones, almost all these people, probably half the field, have already reached a automatic qualifying threshold that gets them into nationals. So these really are not just the best of the best in the state, but I mean among the best of the best in the country. Some of these people that are going to be here are going to go on to compete in national track and field events in college, professionally. I mean, there could be future Olympians at this meet, and they're probably. I'd be willing to bet if you look back at almost every state track and field championship where the athletes are old enough to go on to a professional level, you'd probably find almost at least one Olympian at every one.
I mean, look at the state record holders for
It's
the state.
exactly right. It's a
We've had
grooming ground
Marion
for it.
Jones come through here, Allison Felix. Just look at the program. Those meet records are Marion Jones, Allison Felix. You look down to back in 2008, Germán Fernandez from Riverbank, just blistering speed in the 1600, the 3200. How many of those athletes went on to compete nationally, professionally? Freaking some Olympic gold medalists are state record holders here. I mean, that's incredible. And if you make that,
Oh, it's
if you're a top finisher in the state, you're likely going to be doing something with the sport.
Yeah, and a lot of them go on to play in the NFL or great things and great sport, outstanding. Chris Jackson will be down there covering it, so certainly give him a follow. He does a great job on Big Picture. All right, Steve White, 700 game winner for Oak Ridge girls basketball. Speculation on social media, well, he's no longer the coach, and maybe he's no longer this. Well, I asked the coach, and he said, no, I'm retiring as athletic director and a teacher, but he's remaining as coach, head coach or assistant. He's going to be the assistant coach. So he's done as a head coach. He has earned his time to be a grandfather. He has a daughter who's a teacher on campus, and his wife retired last year. Did a big story on him. Chris Jackson done stories on him. Tremendous coach, 700 wins, most in Sac Joaquin section, boys or girls, amazing. I'm glad he's still in it. And here's the thing that I've learned with years talking to coaches, the best job in coaching is that of the assistant coach. You're just working on post play and you're working on outlets and fundamentals. Let somebody else do all the scheduling and chewing on the referees and dealing with parents and fundraising and logistics and all of that. So Steve White will still be in place, but his victory total is capped. You don't get those wins as an assistant unless he takes over from via ejection. But Steve White of Oak Ridge is going to remain in place, so we applaud that. Let's go really quick over the we have Sac Joaquin section baseball champions and softball champions getting ready for the NorCal playoffs that start next week. Why didn't they start this week? Because the Bay Area teams are still finishing out their sections. We have teams such as Franklin in Division One should be in a NorCal Division One Del Oro will be in the NorCal's this competitive equity field, so they could move up. Yuba City is in this as well. It should be really good. Softball, I'm going to defer to you, Jordan. Who are we looking for in softball? With this competitive equity, I think any of our softball heavyweights will do just fine. And also for both of you, there's a lot of teams from Southern California who have already said we're done. We're capping our season now. You don't have to go to the regionals. The season gets so long. You got senior trips, you got graduation, kids playing summer ball, ASA, baseball, softball, whatever, travel ball for baseball. What are you hearing, Jordan? I'm hearing that some of the players at Del Oro may not continue the season. So all of a sudden you have thinner rosters. It's interesting, but that is where we are. And how do you make it any different? You're going to start the season in February or even earlier. I don't know.
I mean, it really is. I've heard the same thing with Del Oro. I talked to head coach Sean Erickson, and I think you kind of have to go back to what Chris Bean says is after a section championship, it's all gravy. I mean, nothing's guaranteed after this. You never know how the brackets are going to fall, and spring sports especially. I mean, Del Oro had some players that the coach said, the parents didn't realize that NorCal's was the week that it was, and school's out on, I think today's their last day of school. They graduate tomorrow, and they're basically like, we have vacations planned, we have family we're visiting, we have, this or that, or travel ball tournaments starting up. I'm sure these travel ball coaches are probably tugging at their sleeve trying to get them back out, saying, hey, you get recruited out of travel ball, not out of high school. And it's a catch-22 because I do think I love the idea of a NorCal championship. I love the idea of maybe even getting a state championship eventually. But like you said, Joe, how practical is it? And I know we've added this extra week off now to where it feels like just when we're trickling into June, we're trickling into mid-June. I mean, we're really starting to get deep into the summer here, and we can't really move it up much further because we're already playing baseball and softball games before Valentine's Day. I think by the time we got out to our first baseball or softball games this year, they were already starting league play because basketball, by the time it ended, baseball's preseason was already over. So there's not really a way to move it up. And I love it, but I will admit maybe it's not the most practical thing. And I do think we're going to have some teams to watch out for. That being said, I mean, one, Oak Ridge and Del Oro, I think they've been among the top 15 teams in the nation all season. I don't see any reason why we couldn't see a Destiny Christian end up in a D1 bracket with competitive equity. And to be honest, I don't see a world that, maybe Whitney doesn't end up in a Division 1 bracket. I don't think they're going to put 4 from the same section in NorCal in the same division, but crazier things have happened. Um, but I think
I mean,
we've got a chance.
Destiny Christian wants to be in that field.
Yep.
They said
Oh,
we're begging
absolutely.
for it. We want to be Division 1 because they want to take on anybody. And wouldn't that be fitting if Destiny Christian and Oak Ridge played? They were supposed to play late in the regular season non-league game. Oak Ridge took the forfeit, wanted to rest up. Destiny Christian players and coaches and admin wonder if why didn't you play? Well, that may now happen.
Yeah.
And
And I
there you
mean,
go.
they can win that bracket too. And
Yes.
I mean, at the same time, too, I know Rockland lost the section title, but they took 3 out of 4 from Whitney this year. And yes, Whitney gets the bragging rights because they won that section title. But what's the old saying in sports where the only thing more dangerous than a good team is a good team that's pissed off? And I think you're going to have an angry Rockland and an angry Del Oro team coming in saying, "Hey, we don't like how our section championships ended. We want to go say something about that." And those are two teams I wouldn't underestimate too. And then another one I want to shout out is how about Little Forest Hill winning their first section championship in softball 2 weeks ago? They're on 2 weeks rest, but making the regionals for the first time. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. No matter what happens in their draw in their first game, they're now playing further than any softball team in their school's history has played. And that's something you got to applaud.
It's excellent. It's really good. And Chris Jackson, thoughts on that? I don't like the teams. I understand why teams have to pull out. It's just odd and it's disappointing. We also, but there's so many things going on, and this has been a problem for decades. There are great stories from the 1980s where the Cordova Lancers in baseball and the Grant Pacers in baseball were the area heavyweights. We don't see it now, but they were then. And sometimes they get to a section final or a section semifinal, and half the team is on a senior trip down in Disneyland. and it's something that sticks with him forever. And regret and disappointment, and you can't do it all. And it's really interesting. I think this section has done a nice job of working around graduations and venues and all that. So, Chris Jackson, what do you think? And I think the teams who will decline NorCal or SoCal bids will be the norm unless the schedule gets moved up.
I think part of it has to do, we've got to have every section on the same calendar, and we've got to adjust some of our postseason calendars. If you look towards the NCS and CCS, they have those days where they have league championships. I think we're going to have to get rid of those to make some of the stuff become less of the norm. Okay, there's a few days cut off. Our section, as much as we love a three game semifinals, that takes up an entire week of games, right? That's an entire week just to win a series. You may someday, if you want to get to a state championship, have less risk of teams cutting out, pulling out this and that. You may have to get rid of that too and just have a semifinals game here on Tuesday, and the section has their championships Friday and Saturday, and just have it all day. There's not a whole lot of other options, but you're gonna have to trim these various postseason calendars, and the Sac Joaquin may have to go to that 2 week postseason in baseball, like NCS and CCS do, and then these CCS and NCS leagues may have to cut, trim, get rid of those league playoffs and those league championships, especially when some of them they've already played these teams twice or they've played series against these teams. I think that proves enough right there who the best teams were.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And all right, a big picture topic as we close out is the overuse of pitching arms. This is a problem for years, the overuse of little league arms, high school, college, professional, Tommy John surgeries where they repair or replace ligaments in the pitching elbow. And it's named after a pitcher from the 1970s who had that radical new surgery and it worked. Evan Gibbons of Franklin High School fame of Elk Grove Unified, the conference player of the year, the Western Athletic Conference player, a pitcher of the year for the Sacramento State. Fantastic player in his seventh year at Sac State. He's 25 years old. Why is he there so long? He had two Tommy John surgeries at Sac State, overcame them both. So he can overcome them, but it's this is a trend that continues to be a problem. That's why there's pitching limitations in Little League. So many outs in high school. It used to be these guys would just go until their arms literally fell off. So back to you, Chris Jackson. What are your thoughts on this? And then back over to you as well, Jordan. Is it a concern? Have you heard some things? What's the latest vibe on all of this?
So yeah, we were all reading the story. I believe it was from Keith Law in the Athletic in the New York Times about overuse of pitchers, some college pitchers throwing 150, 160 pitches in an outing. Is that overuse there? Yeah, you could claim it, but a lot of this overuse doesn't just come from that one day. It comes from years of this. You're playing year round. You're playing travel ball, high school ball, everything else. You're throwing from these certain angles 12 months out of the year. Not a lot of time to rest the arm, not a lot of time to recover. The best coaches have their bullpen sessions be no more than half of it throwing. And they're talking about situational stuff. What's the situation here? What are we going to do here? They're discussing that. And they're not overusing the arms at the same time. We're not doing these massive bullpen sessions, these throwing sessions all the time, 12 months out of the year. That's not healthy on the body to do that. Why do we see some of these basketball injuries come up too? Because they're working those same muscles the same way 12 months out of the year. That's why we commend the multi-sport athletes, and that's why some of those athletes last the longest too, because of what they're doing with their bodies, the way they take care of it. Look at a LeBron James. How long has he lasted with minimal injuries? A multi-sport guy, but he's taken immense care of his body. He's done things the right way. He's treated it like a marathon, not a sprint. We got to stop treating things like a sprint when it comes to the arms, especially. These kids do not need to throw all the time when they're 10 years old. They don't need to play travel ball when they're 8, 9, 10 years old. Play Little League, have fun, be a freaking kid. But I'm seeing more and more where we're overusing these arms in the travel ball circuit in the fall and the summertime when sometimes the arm just needs a month or two off. Recover that stuff, work on other stuff. Yes, sure, hit the weight room, work on some stuff, get training sessions in. But when you're throwing that much and with the elbow, the arm, the shoulders, everything, that's not going to last. And that's why Tommy John is so much more prevalent and almost when you hear someone got Tommy John, it feels like, oh, they sprained their ankle. That's just how common it feels among pitchers at every level.
Yeah, it feels like
Yeah,
we've
well
gotten to a
said.
point. I mean, we've gotten to a point where I remember years ago, what, 10 years ago, it was like Tommy John was almost like a career-ending injury. It was like, you knew the pitcher was never going to come back the same. And now it just feels like a setback, kind of like how ACLs were in football. And I mean, gone are the days where you get Walter Johnson or Cy Young throwing 200 pitches and getting struck by lightning during the game and throwing back a couple shots in the dugout and then still finding a way to throw a no hitter. I mean, it's not 1920 anymore. We're not going to be having that. But I think a lot of times what people forget, Chris, to your point, is the bullpen sessions, the warm-ups. A pitcher could exit a game with 85 pitches thrown in the game, but that's 8 pitches before every inning. I think before the game starts, you get something like 15 or something like that. Not to mention the bullpen you threw before the game, and they're exiting that with probably close to 150 to 200 pitches thrown. And I mean, it's excessive, it's too much, and I think we're seeing Tommy John not only be more prevalent, but it's at a younger age now. I remember even when I first started this, having a high schooler get Tommy John was almost unheard of. Now I feel like it's almost becoming common where high school seniors they finish out their senior year, they get Tommy John so they can redshirt and get a medical redshirt before their first year of college, or some of them are even getting it in college. I mean, in high school, and it's sad to see. And like Chris says, there's no need for some travel ball stuff at such a young age. Play Little League, play with your Little League All Stars. The Little League World Series is like one of the greatest sporting events in the world, still to this day, one of the probably purest sporting events in the world. And I feel like, Little League itself is losing its magic because of all these kids playing travel ball all year round. And I'm not knocking travel ball completely. There is a time for it. But when I was a kid, travel ball was something that was only played in the summer. And it was played, if I really remember right, it was played after Little League All Stars. It wasn't anything that was this year-round debacle like it is now. And I feel like we almost need to get back to that. And I know the big conversation that sparked it was this Boston College pitcher that threw 237 pitches in a week during the ACC tournament. And as much as I hate the overuse of arms, I also want to give a tip of the cap to that because I think that's a different situation where I don't think it's a coach overusing the arm. I think that is the will of a player trying to buy one more week of getting to a tournament with the NCAA tournament with his guys. But at the same time, I don't want to see that become a common thing. I mean, if a pitcher wants to leave it all out there for one tournament in a postseason, okay, but they don't need to be throwing, 100 pitches once a week every week throughout the year. And all that's going to do is lead to more injuries. It's going to lead to guys burning out. And it's going to have a negative effect on baseball.
We need to teach the proper mechanics stuff to you. You need to get the proper arm slot, the proper elbow placement, everything.
Yep.
Like, there's so many mechanics into it where if you're looking at Tommy John surgery, sometimes you can just trace it to the mechanics of it and the overuse of doing it a certain way. And why does the elbow get hurt like that? And why did he get a serious injury? But it's sad to think to hear that Tommy John almost feels like a badge of honor now in some ways. And I know that it's not
You
really what
survived
it is,
it.
but
Hmm.
that's the way that it sounds now. And I
And
hate to
like,
No,
hear that, especially among young men and young women.
no, this is all excellent and it's a great point. And here's the thing that's interesting is if you have a kid who's good enough to be on some travel team and all that, well, then you're denying the kid, and the parent wants the kid to have his best experiences, and it's a great time. Well, then have him multi-sport. We all know Tyler Ritter. He is the multi-sport star, Roseville Tigers of Placer County, and he's 9-0, going to UC Davis, only a junior, basketball player for his dad, Bobby Ritter. And I asked him after the section championship when the Tigers won, and he's the winning pitcher. And I said, well, why do you multi-sport? What is he goes, it's good for my body. It's good for my mental health. It uses different muscles. That's exactly why you do it. And also for the memories and the experiences and all that. Otherwise, he'd be pitching year round. And it's just too much. And these guys could be top flight athletes. And you're right, Jordan. It used to be it used to be the kiss of death. Now it's the badge of honor. We can only implore people, don't put so much pressure on your little kid. You see these signs at Little League games, let the coaches coach and let the players play and let the umpires officiate, and your kid's not going to be playing for the Dodgers next week, kind of thing. We're going to sign off with that. Chris Jackson's going to the state meet for CIF state meet. Bridge, check that out. Jordan Georgeson, and next week we'll talk about the Lincoln Potters, the summer wood bat league, and some of our high school kids sometimes play there. We'll talk about that. How good is that? And then good stuff. I think Jordan's wearing the lid of the Lincoln Potters, which is a great product, a great team. It's a cool little thing. We'll dig into that more next week as we start to wind down the academic year. Joe Davidson, Chris Jackson, Jordan Georgeson, we appreciate everybody. Check us out all over social media. Thank you for listening. Pass the word, share the word, get on that GoFundMe, and take care of yourselves, and don't throw your arm out of loop. You need to operate. So for everybody, we thank you. We'll see you next week.